Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/EntitledParents. And our first story. Sometimes calm understanding and patience is the best way to destroy people. Okay, so a wee bit of backstory. Way back in the early 2000s, we moved a full state over. This was big for me because we moved a lot, but it was always just one or two cities over. I had never left my home state before. But this new home was great, and my family has been there ever since. Now, I was 14 at the time, and all the kids were around 10 or so there was no one my age to hang out with. So in the end, I just stayed with these kids, and there was a surprising amount of culture shock. I was raised way more conservatively and was a lot more durable, yet reserved. As the years passed, I ended up being the neighborhood babysitter. It was odd for me because I was an enormous young man. I'm currently 6'7", and I was very awkward growing up, but I don't have many non-fond memories of my childhood and younger friends. It wasn't all fun, but it was decent. But I left for the Navy, and I had this interesting encounter when I came back after a year or so on what ended up being literally my only military leave. Most of my friends were all adults now, or almost that, but I still get asked to babysit at least their younger siblings and generally keep them out of trouble. I was basically just there to make sure the little ones didn't run out in front of cars or play with matches. My best friend, whom I'll just call Mark for now, was there with me. He was a tall, skinny, black guy who I absolutely love to match wits with. Still do to this day. One of the only people who can challenge me intellectually. But he has a bit of a rough background with his family. This is important later. So that fateful day, I was up and about, mostly catching up with my friends and talking to them about basic and my first year or so at my command, which was in Japan. So it was a pretty popular topic. I only vaguely had to intervene with the younger kids and get them to calm down or stop something. Now entered the entitled kid and entitled mom, EK and EM. I had been gone for about 2 years, and almost the same week I had left, this new family had moved in, so they got to know everyone but me. But I had been there for years before her, and everyone else in the neighborhood trusted me explicitly, as they knew me very well. As I talked with my friends, I noticed some new faces, but mostly EK. I inquired Mark, but he just said it was some kid from a family that moved in just after I left. Everything seemed fine until I heard a hefty clunk and clatter. I turned to see a softball-sized rock clattering across the cul-de-sac. I look in the opposite direction the rock is rolling, and I see EK pick up another and hurl it at the head of Mark's younger brother, then reach for another. Apparently, this was EK's idea of what playing was. I very quickly rushed over, snatching the rock from him, and very sternly told him he could hurt or even kill someone if he tried to play like that. I didn't know him or his family, so I didn't bother doing or saying anything else until I turned around and started back to Mark. I saw him waving, and a rock bounced off my back. Granted, I'm 6'7" and 300 pounds, so it's not like it was going to kill me, but still I turned around and glared at the little twat, jabbing my finger near violently to the end of the street, very clearly and aggressively saying, "Go home now." He took off like the devil was chasing him, and I figured it was over. But you know how this works. 2 minutes later, this shaved gorilla-looking middle-aged woman came strutting up the street with EK in tow. She came marching right up to me, practically frothing at the mouth. Though for the past 2 years I've had everything from first-class petty officers to master chiefs screaming in my face, so while she looked to have some weight on her and expected the world to cower when she went all mama bear, I remained upright and towered over her when she came to confront me. My refusal to step back appeared to mildly prompt her to not get all too close. Still, the ree of her was strong. EM practically perforated my eardrums with her, "What did you do to my child?" I calmly responded, "Ma'am, he was throwing rocks at the other kids. I told him to stop, and he threw rocks at me, so I told him to go home." About this time, I noticed Mark shaking his head. Clearly, this was a woman who had a reputation. Regardless, Mark came to my side trying to confirm my story, but the shrieking continued. "No, you abused my child. He's got red marks on his arm." I looked over at the kid, who seemed to not only be perfectly fine, but straight up gleeful at his mother who was flailing and frothing at me. I sighed and just again calmly spoke, "Ma'am, I didn't touch him. You can ask literally everyone present." And again, "No, I know these kids. They are all liars and thieves, especially him." She threw an accusing finger at Mark. And honestly, despite having seen a bit of the world, it took me a bit back when I heard her spew, "You can't trust their kind." I didn't know exactly what she was meaning as it came out bad, sounding very racist. I don't know if she was just spouting off some crazy crap or what, but she just kept on frothing. She went on about how her little angel would never hurt anyone or anything and so on, talking about the imaginary red marks on his arm, and then it came out. "And you, how old are you? What is someone your age doing with children, you creep? I'm calling the police." I sighed loudly and just told her, "Go ahead, you'll find this isn't going to go your way." She made a few gorilla noises, which I think were supposed to be words, before she turned from my unflinching face and to Mark and started tearing into him and his family, trying to tell him that he had some sort of darkness in him, and how it's in his whole family. Some pseudo-religious evil spirit garbage. Before I finally had enough, I turned about gesturing for all the kids to go into one of the houses. "Hey, let's just leave. She's not thinking straight. Let's just let whoever comes to figure this out deal with it." She growled and made more gorilla noises before turning around. Mark said something along the lines of, "We shouldn't have to leave because of her." But I calmly reminded her, "She doesn't know me. If your brother came to you and said some stranger was hitting him or whatever, your rage would overwhelm your trust of a complete stranger too." I left out any mentions of gorilla noises and frothing at the mouth, as Mark was clearly above that. However, EM whipped about and screamed at me, "If you're going to say something about me, say it to my face." To which I turned around and repeated the same thing, to her clarifying that despite the fact that she was acting incredibly aggressive and was in the wrong, it was at least understandable. She grunted more and stormed off with EK in tow. It wasn't until a few days later, when the story had circulated around the neighborhood from both sides, EM seemed to change her mind on calling the police. Instead, she went to the other houses and tried to tell the story about the creepy, evil child abuser. Not only that, but in small towns, when someone goes off to join the military, well, to put it simply, not only did all these adults know me pretty well, but my joining the military kind of put me into a state of pseudo-sainthood. Then all the kids told their side of the story, and what ended up happening is a severe alienation of EM. The small town believed me, and the kids and this shaved gorilla was not only calling into question my integrity, but implying I was a pedophile. It was almost instant. The third day, EM came to me and made a very thorough apology. I recommended her to apologize to Mark and his family too, which I think she did. But it appeared as though a simple "I'm sorry" wasn't enough. Just a month or so after I went back to my ship, I got an email letting me know that EM and her family moved out. Apparently the neighborhood was extremely zealous in my defense, and she became priority target for petty revenge. Every time EK came out to play, all the neighborhood kids were told to come inside, as the neighborhood was very vocal about how they didn't trust their kids around EK or EM. She tried to paint me as the villain and ended up completely obliterating her own standing in our town instead. ED don't understand that his son can't be in our internet cafe and calls 911 for illegal activities. Backstory. I live in New York City and I work as an employer at a small, unpopular internet cafe. I've been a worker at that cafe for 6 months. Everything was smooth, cha-cha, real smooth, until 2 weeks ago. Can't believe people like this even exist on the planet. English first language, but sucks too much. Sorry for grammar mistakes on mobile. Cast. Me. Worker at ICED. Entitled Dad. BS. ED's son. So here's how it happened. So it was around 7 in the evening, where it was the peak of people, mostly teens, but okay, came here and play games. Even though it was the peak time, it was like more than 20 people in there. When ED and his brat crap came. Now please note that BS is less than 16 years old, and we're not allowed to be in our premises. So I tried to inform ED about the policy. The following conversation ensues. Me. Greetings, sir. May I see your son's identity card, please? ED, why? Me, you may didn't notice, but our policy states that your son needs to be at least 16 years old to be in here. ED, I don't need to. He's mature enough to be here. Me, okay, so what's your intention to be here? BS, I want to play CCSS Goo. Me, okay, you can. ED cuts off. What's the price for an hour of usage? Me, but I need your son's ID. ED, why? To ensure he's 16 years old. Do I need to repeat again? He's mature enough to be here. Furthermore, he plays like a professional. He deserves to be here. Me, oh, okay. What's your rank in CSGO, mate? BS, Silver 1. ME, okay, let me tell you something straight, sir. Silver 1 is the lowest skill group, not high enough to be called professional, and without ID you can't use our computers. BS, but I want to play CSGO! ED, you heard it, he wants to play. Give it. Me, sir, with all of my respect, your son needs to prove that he is 16 years old. I will not let your son or even you to use our computers if you don't show us your ID. Do I make myself clear, sir? ED, oh, F you. If my son can't play, neither other can play. I'm going to call 911 for promoting illegal activities in this premises and for assaulting my son. This way your cafe will be shut down. Me, okay, go ahead. Just to inform you that our cafe is legit and registered so I can assure you no illegal activities is taking place. ED, I want to see your manager. Me, why you want to see my manager, where instead you can call the police and file a complaint about our illegal activities? ED, that's it. You're going to get it from me. He then leaves the cafe while calling on his phone. I'm still waiting for the police to come to our internet cafe. Sorry if the ending is not satisfying. If I had any updates, I will let you know. So Tyler, if you're reading this, yes, this is about you. And next time, if you're going to be an ass, maybe don't give people a way to know your full name. I know where you work now. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you want more, and see you next time.